Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrath Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Wednesday, the 27th of Rabi'ul Akhir, 1445, corresponding with the English date, 10th of January 2024. Hazrat Wala has in front of him the Aqwal-e-Salaf. Hazrat Wala is saying that these things or the topics here in the Aqwal-e-Salaf was what I actually heard from Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab, and himself was Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab was quoting from the Tabaqatul Kubra. And then after his demise, when people requested, I started translating the Tabaqatul Kubra, and then every day I would then read it out to Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Sahab after the Maghrib Salat. And many of these articles, in fact all, if not all, then most, I read to him from this year, from this particular kitab. So what can I say? Buzrugo se suni hui baat, or Buzrugo ki dekhi hui baat, that heard it from the Buzrugs, and it was then seconded by the Buzrugan-e-Deen as well. So Allama Sha'rani was a man of great capacity. Here, in the conclusion here, Hazrat Wala is saying, by Allah's grace, the 11th volume of Aqwal-e-Salaf has been completed. This brings us to the end of this series, which contains the statements and life conditions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, other Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, Tabi'un, saints and scholars. I have been compiling these for the last 46 to 47 years. As far as possible, I left no stone unturned in researching this book. If any defect remains, I beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pardon me. Ameen. Now, our Hazrat Wala is speaking. Okay, let's continue. The sole purpose of compiling the Aqwal-e-Salaf, the maqsad, was to highlight the oneness and the uniformity. चूँकि अक़वाल-ए-सलफ़ की तालीफ़ का मक़सद वहीद मुतक़द्दिमीन व मुतअख़िरीन की तालीमात में तवाफ़ुक़ व यकसानियत को वाज़िह करना था. The sole purpose and maqsad of compiling the Aqwal-e-Salaf was to highlight the oneness and the uniformity in the teachings of the early and the latter day scholars and saints. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I presented each volume to the ulama of the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and they attested to the correctness of this book. In fact, they offered their views in the form of written reviews and impressions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them. As a way of reminding ourselves, I say that this book, this kitab, started with the world-renowned book, At-Tabaqatul Kubra of Allama Abdul Wahab Sha'rani rahimahullah. Initially, the statements and life conditions of the pious predecessors were presented from this book, the Tabaqatul Kubra. Subsequently, other books were quoted. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them. I consider it necessary to quote one of his pieces of nasihat and advice, which he wrote towards the end of his introduction. This will serve as a reminder to us. ثم إن من طالع مثل هذا الكتاب ولم يحصل عنده نهضة ولا شوق إلى طريق الله عز وجل فهو والأموات سواء. Allahu Akbar. A person who studies a book of this nature and does not develop within him an urge and yearning to thread the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he and the dead are the same. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to benefit tremendously from this book and instill in our hearts with verve and fervor and fervor of Iman, and instill our hearts with verve and fervor of Iman. May He enable us to imbibe the spirituality and the barakat, the blessings of all the righteous personalities. Ameen. Hazrat Wala is saying that Hazrat Tanvi used to say that दो हजरात के ऊपर उलूम का इल्का, upon two great personalities there was a great flood from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a waterfall of knowledge and ulum. One was Allama Sha'rani, we just spoke about him now, and he is Tabaqatul Kubra, Allama Sha'rani, and the other one was the personality of Hazrat Shah Waliullah Muhaddith Dehlvi, Hazrat Shah Waliullah. Hazrat Haji, okay. Let's continue. Now praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The writing of Aqwal Salaf started in the house of Hazrat Muslihul Ummat, 23 Bakhshi Bazar, Alahbadi, in around the year 1394 Hijri. It was completed on the 29th of Zulqa'dah 1441 Hijri at the house of Mahbub Ahmad, 407 Bakhshi Bazar, and Madrasa Baytul Ma'arif Bakhshi Bazar, Madrasa Darul Ma'arif Kareli, and Baytul Adhkar Wasiabad, Allahabad. So it was started there, and this work, wherever Hazrat Wala was present, he continued with that and he completed it in that manner. My heart, okay. This is the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He confers to whomever He wills. Salawat, salutations to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. O Allah, pardon the shortcomings in it and reward me and those who helped me in whatever way they could. Ameen. Now, Hazrat Haji Imdadullah rahimahullah ta'ala had an amazing type of istihzar and ever-present nature towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This istihzar, that Allah ta'ala is present all the time, so much so that पैर नहीं फैलाते थे. लोग कहते थे कि हजरत पैर फैला दीजिएगा. He would never ever stretch out his legs, and then people would say that Hazrat, relax, open up your legs, stretch your legs out. He would go on to say that Malik के सामने कोई पैर फैलाते हैं? Tell me, in front of the Grand Master, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can anyone stretch their legs? Now that is the personality that we speak about. And after that, what happened? Hazrat Maulana Gangohi, Maulana Qasim Saheb, Maulana Tanvi, Hazrat Shah Muhibbullah Alahbadi, all these people then came to drink from the fountain of Hazrat Haji Imdadullah rahimahullah. What can we say? Allah Ta'ala chooses whoever so He wishes to make them muallim haqiqi, to make them a genuine teacher, because then He starts inspiring them and teaching them. And then when others, no matter what type of acumen they have, in dini knowledge, when they see this type of nur, they all come and surround that person and start drinking from his fountain. Allah Ta'ala jisko chahe sikha de. Allah Ta'ala will teach whomsoever He wishes. My heart desires to quote a dua of an Arabi, a Bedouin Sahabi, which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam admired and gave the person a gift for it. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the person a gift for it. So here, the hadith عن أنس رضي الله تعالى عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مر بأعرابي وهو يدعو في صلاته وهو يقول. Hazrat Anas radiallahu ta'ala narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam passed by a Bedouin who was making the following dua in his salat. Ya man la tarahul uyun, O the one whom the eyes cannot behold. وَلَا تُخَالِطُهُ الظُّنُونَ, who cannot be described by the most adept. وَلَا يَصِفُهُ الْوَاصِفُونَ. So, O that Zat, the one whom eyes cannot behold. وَلَا تُخَالِطُهُ الظُّنُونَ, minds cannot imagine. وَلَا يَصِفُهُ الْوَاصِفُونَ, who cannot be described by the most adept. وَلَا تُغَيِّرُهُ الْحَوَادِثِ, whom no conditions can alter. وَلَا يَخْشَى الدَّوَائِرِ, and does not fear any calamity. Hazrat Wala is saying, we go to the UK or to Canada and we hear about these hurricane whirlwinds and what happens and how it uproots and how it throws down and how people get crushed and how people are destroyed. Here, what do we say about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The Bedouin praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَا تُغَيِّرُهُ الْحَوَادِثِ وَلَا يَخْشَى الدَّوَائِرِ, whom no condition can alter and who does not fear any calamity. يَعْلَمُ مَثَاقِيلَ الْجِبَالِ وَمَكَايِيلَ الْبِحَارِ وَعَدَدَ قَطْرِ الْأَمْطَارِ وَعَدَدَ وَرَقِ الْأَشْجَارِ وَعَدَدَ مَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلِ وَأَشْرَقَ عَلَيْهِ النَّهَارِ. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. How this Bedouin praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He, that Zat, that Supreme Being who knows the weight of the mountains, the amount of water in the oceans, the number of raindrops, the number on the leaves of trees, the number of the leaves on trees. Allahu Akbar. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam listens to the Bedouin praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's taken aback by that, and then so he praised Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in such a way. He praised, the Bedouin praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taken aback. A hal overwhelmed him, and उसी हाल को हासिल करने के लिए बुजुर्गों के पास जाया जाता है. For these spiritual states, it is that we go into the presence and in the khidmat of the Buzurgan-e-Deen. So that Zat and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is listening to everything, is also listening to us here. ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. No word is ever uttered, statement, sentence, except that there is a stern guard ready there to collect it and to take that. Now Allah Ta'ala give us Iman in this year. Just look at what is being said and how Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is being praised. وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا. No leaf falls from a tree except that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala knows about it. So here he knows the weight of the mountains, the amount of water in the oceans, the number of the raindrops, the number of leaves on trees. So whenever there are 2 people, Allah is the third. Whenever there are 9 or 10 people, wherever there are 9 people, then Allah is the 10th, and so on. Today we use instruments to measure the rain, to do this and to do that. Who put this in the human brain? Who gave them that intellect and that intelligence to bring about and invent these type of instruments? That very Zat and very being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is absolutely independent, who needs no instrument, and He measures everything absolute to the last point. You know, some person asked me that, I think he was from UK, Kaise likha? He asked our Hazrat Wala that, how did you write this? So then I said to him that I would sit and I would write, and on one side children would be playing, this would be going on in the house, that would be happening here, this would be happening there. You know, my Sa'id would say, he's the eldest, that Abba, why don't you go in solitude? Why don't you go into a room alone? And then you can do this. And our Hazrat Wala would sit and he would continue with his works, continue writing. Wherever he was in Baytul Ma'arif, or he was in Darul Ma'arif, or he was at the house of Mari Mahbub, or he was at Baytul Azkar, he continued writing. In all of that, he would write. Man arafa nafsahu, arafa rabbahu. The person who has recognized his nafs. Indeed, he has recognized Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man arafa nafsahu bil fana, arafa rabbahu bil baqa. Whoever understood himself with fana, annihilation, with a beginning and an end, that eventually he is going to come to an end, then he would recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bil baqa, with eternity. Man arafa nafsahu bil jahala, arafa rabbahu bil ilm. Whoever understood and recognized himself with that of ignorance, he then would recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with knowledge. Man arafa nafsahu bil du'uf, arafa rabbahu bil quwwah. Whoever understood his nafs to be weak, he would then understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be mighty. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb, when he would exit and come out after relieving himself, he would come and he would sit down, and what was his impression? He would say that Quluk utaya, gir gaya, itna bhi nahi kar saka. That I picked up this quluk, dera, I went to relieve myself, stand stone, to make istinja, just a small stone like that, and it fell out of my hands. I couldn't even pick that up. It fell out of my hands. So what was it there? What was his hal? What was he overwhelmed with? And what message was he passing on to us? That he understood and recognized his nafs with that of weakness. So Allah Ta'ala bless us with His ma'rifat, and Allah Ta'ala bless us with maghfirat as well. You know, we're speaking here about the trees, that Allah Ta'ala knows the number of leaves on trees. Now we understand well that when does a leaf drop from a tree? It drops from the tree at that time when it becomes negligent. It is not in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the time it falls down. Similarly, when does the fish get caught in the net of the fisherman? At that time when it is negligent. There was a Buzruk, and listen to this incident of his son. What can we say? His son was also saintly and a Buzruk just like the father. Father would say to him, son, come, let's eat yes fish. And then he would say that, Abba, I heard that that fish that is oblivious, that is negligent regarding the remembrance and the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is ghafil. It then thus comes into the net of the fisherman. It gets caught. So why must I eat something which is ghafil, negligent of the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I may just also become negligent. So everybody's hal and spiritual state is different. That's why we should also read the ahwal and the spiritual states of our Buzrugan Deen. Mi'yar ikar barseh shay ast. Kitabullah wa sunnat Rasul वसीरत सलफ. हज़रत मौलाना शाह वसीउल्लाह इसको बहुत सुनाते थे. He used to quote this here abundantly, that our foundation is built on three. Number one, the Quran, Kitabullah. Number two, Sunnat Rasul, the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And number three is that of the Sirat, the life, the practicality, the practical example that the pious predecessors left for us. Today we even find such groups of people who reject this sirat, the practical example of our aslaf and pious predecessors. They reject that. You know, our Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb used to say that, see, the Sahaba learned that practical aspect directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and if it was not like that, the Sahaba would not be even able to carry out one sajda. They had to see it physically and practically. How? With their eyes. How did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam make this sajda? He done this and he done that. This is how he placed his hands. This is how he bowed down, etc. The entire sajda. If they did not see that, they would not have the know-how properly, exactly, accurately how to carry out this perfect sajda. Hazrat Shah Anwar used to relate this a lot. And these things came to us with tawatur, from heart to heart, continuously, consecutively, consistently from that time, and it has reached us here today. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala's waqia. He went on one occasion, he performed the Isha Salat in the masjid. The Imam recited Surah Zilzal in the Salat. After the Salat was over, the Imam of the Salat then retired to his room, which was adjacent to the masjid, his apartment. And our Imam Abu Hanifa, this ayat actually grasped him. This ayat actually floored him. He held his beard and he wept profusely the entire night until he made Fajr in this condition, continuously saying to Allah, "O that Zat and that being who will reward an atom amount of good with good and reward, and he would punish for an atom amount of evil. O that Zat and that Supreme Being, save this Abd Nu'man from Niran. Save me from the fire of hell." And he would quote this waqi. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb abundantly. Hazrat Maulana Abdul Hayy Farangi Mahalli has made note of this particular waqia in his works. Now, after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he carries on praising Allah ta'ala. وَعَدَدَ مَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلِ وَأَشْرَقَ عَلَيْهِ النَّهَارِ لا تواري منه سماء سماء ولا أرض أرضا ولا بحر ما في قعره ولا جبل ما في وعره. Whatever is darkened by the night and all that is brightened by the day, no portion of the sky is hidden from him, no section of the earth, nothing in the depths of the oceans, nor anything in the clefts of the mountains. And now he comes to, after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all of that, then he comes to this point where he presents his dua to Allah. Now what a wonderful dua. Achi dua hai na? What a wonderful dua. What does he say in the dua? Ij'al khayra umri akhirahu. O my Allah, make the last portion of my life the best. What is the last portion of my life? The last portion of my life, make it the best, meaning that I pass away with the kalima tayyiba, La ilaha illallah. For the one who passes away like that, for him there is nothing other than Jannah. Man qala la ilaha illallah dakhala al-Jannah. O my Allah, make the last portion of my life the best. وَخَيْرَ عَمَلِي خَوَاتِيمَهُ. And make my best action at the end of my life. What can your best deed be other than saying the shahadat at the time of death, which we just spoke about now? And then listen to the last part. And make my best day the day when I meet you. يوم ألقاك فيه وخير أيامي يوم ألقاك فيه. And make my best day the day that I meet you. Okay, so that Bedouin and Arabi made his dua. After that, rather, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard him making this dua in his salat. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam left and then appoints a person that, listen, once he's done, summon him and bring him to me. When that Sahabi, Arabi, Bedouin comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made himself present there. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually received some nuggets of gold from a gold mine. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam took that gold nuggets and gave it to him. And then he went on to ask him that, from which tribe do you come? He went on to say, I come from the Qabila, the tribe of Banu Amir ibn Sa'sa. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then posed another question to him by saying that, do you know why I endowed you and blessed you with these nuggets of gold? He went on to say, it is because we enjoy some type of a connection and a relationship, maybe our tribes, or we link up to one another some way. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on to say that there is a right for family ties. However, these nuggets of gold that I blessed you with was because of in the special style and way in which you praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. Faida. Subhanallah. Subhanallah al-Azim. कि रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने एक आराबी देहाती सहाबी की दुआ को कैसी पजीराई और इनाम देकर कैसी हौसला अफजाई फरमाए. How Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam appreciated deeply, rather rewarded the Sahabi with something, and in what a way he encouraged him. What type of encouragement he must have given this person by rewarding him in that manner. So we also learn from this here, when something is carried out in a most beautiful manner, then on that day to endow and bless someone with something is actually appropriate, rather the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that these type of things can be a means of encouragement for the ummah. A means of encouragement for the ummah. Now today we say bid'at, this, that and the other. No, not so quickly. Somebody says you're giving this person, it's bid'ah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave. The ummah should also do that. Hazrat Maulana Mohammad Ahmad Saheb used to say, do not make this bid'at terminology so aam and so common that you start using it for every single thing. You start saying bid'ah. Think for a moment, what is the person doing? What is it? How is it? Giving something on the occasion of memorization of the Quran and Majid, etc., is such a source of encouragement for the person who is receiving it, for him, and for the others, for the onlookers as well. So here, 46 or 45 to 46 years it took to compile this particular kitab in Baytul Ma'arif. Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ahmad Saheb used to be in that private chamber, and then in the masjid the students would sit, and then I would go there in the sahan and in that courtyard, and I would sit there against the walls, and I would continue writing and reading and correcting and editing, etc. Thereafter, Hazrat Wala goes on to make dua, the dua that is mentioned on the completion of the 11th volume of the Aqwal Salaf. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-fawza fil qada wa nuzul al-shuhada wa 'aysh al-su'ada wa murafaqat al-anbiya wa nasr 'ala al-a'da innaka sami'ud du'a. Oh Allah, I ask you for success in what is destined, hospitality which will be extended to the martyrs, the life of fortunate persons, the companionship of the Anbiya, the victory against enemies. Surely you hear all du'as. ربي أسألك خير ما في هذا اليوم وخير ما بعده. اللهم إني أسألك خير هذا اليوم وفتحه ونصره ونوره وبركته وهداه. O Allah, I ask you for the good that is in this day and the good that is to come thereafter. O Allah, I ask you for the good of this day, its victory, its assistance, its effulgence, its blessing and its guidance. Wasallallahu وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الحمد لله بنعمته تتم الصالحات والصلاة والسلام على سيد البريات وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه الطاهرات مسلسلات ومتواترات. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us, or rather out of His grace and His fazl and His mercy and compassion, make this kitab a means of us getting the barakat and the barakat and muhabbat. Allah ta'ala bless us with His nisbat. Rather, Allah Ta'ala make it a means that we behold Him and we get a chance to witness Him, Didar, Ziyarat, Ru'yat Ilahi, where we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tomorrow on the day of Qiyamah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم.